Hi, I'm Nat.
And I'm Guy. And what news do we got for today?
Something's going on with John Bolton, which I don't really know that much about. Then England is getting all angry about flying its own flags, and
Well, I think John Bolton's house was raided and his place of business. So the investigation starts. The bodies are starting to not hit the floor, but Trump's going after him right now. J.D. Vance had an interesting interview where he talked about John Bolton. So let's get into it. Sure. Maybe before we do, why don't we talk about the Jewish bakery we went to today?
You have to call it a Jewish, but it was a deli.
It was a deli. It was great. Yes. It was called Mendel.
Mendel.
Yeah,
the name's right there.
What district was it in?
In Condesa.
It's Condesa in Mexico City. Absolutely phenomenal. It's a really old house converted into this restaurant. And the pastrami sandwich was fantastic. I ate a little bit too much of it.
Yes. Apparently Guy wants to try to be a food reviewer now. Maybe one day we'll have like extra shows on Sunday where we can show the city as well and not just do politics.
Yeah.
Maybe I can get you to cook mole or tamales or something.
Well, I let you cook the mole. I do the eating.
Well, it'd be fun to teach you how to cook Mexican food.
Most people probably don't know what mole is, or a lot of people. What do you tell
like
them?
A Mexican curry. It's the best way I can explain it.
You put chocolate.
It is kind of like a curry.
Well, you put chocolate in it, spices, but it's not sweet.
It is kind of sweet.
Okay, well, let's get into, or what are we starting with? Keir Starmer or John Bolton? John Bolton. Okay.
That was the order of it. So from Eric Doherty, this is from a few hours ago. Breaking federal agents are right now in John Bolton's home going through things following an early morning FBI raid in the DC area over national security concerns. Where's my camera? National security concerns. Yes, we indeed vote for this, according to this guy. This is Bolton's primary residence, and this deals with classified records.
Yeah, and man, they should have never gone after Trump with the classified documents because every government worker is most likely going to have classified documents, especially the former head of intelligence. I'm sure everybody after the Trump administration is going to make sure to get rid of their documents because it's going to be a back and forth now. But this is also the thing. The Democrats kind of did this against Trump. So now Trump's obviously going to do it against them. He didn't do it in his first term. I was surprised. He is doing it now. But this is also why I'm saying when even Trump consolidates power with the DC federal force and starts bringing it into other cities, if the Democrats ever get in, that power is already consolidated and ready to be weaponized against their political enemies. So what do you think about this?
When we're like this, I look a lot smaller than you.
Oh, what do you mean?
My face.
Oh, your face.
No, but I like that. It makes me look like a girl, more like a girl.
I can make your head big.
No, thank you.
Because in real life, you do have a potato head.
Hey. Well, I was thinking maybe give a little explainer of who John Bolton is because a lot of people might not even know.
Well, he's the former head of national intelligence. I believe Tulsi Gabbard has his position now. And Tulsi Gabbard is shrinking that department down by over 50%.
And why are they raiding his house?
They're looking for... Oh, we kind of said.
Okay. I was trying to get the headphones ready.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure what you're doing. Yeah, they're raiding his house because they suspect that he has classified documents. Also, he recently published a book and he released national intelligence secrets or things he wasn't supposed to discuss in that book. So that gave him the predicate to go after these home and office searches. Okay, let's play a little bit.
The probe dropped when Joe Biden became president. So is this picking up where that left off, David?
It's possible. I don't know with 100% certainty, but it is notable, guys, that John Bolton, Ambassador Bolton's security clearances were stripped earlier this year by President Trump. Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, took that security clearance away. They had concerns. The administration had concerns about Ambassador Bolton still being able to access some of these documents and have some of those security clearances. It's also notable that John Bolton had a security detail as well. Because of the threats from Iran on his life, that security detail, that government federal paid security detail, was also taken away by President Trump.
Okay, so he's not the only one that's been stripped of his security clearances. A lot of people that are currently being investigated previously had their security clearances stripped. These are dozens and dozens of people from the prior administration. This is kind of how you're going to want to weed out the deep state and try to drain the swamp. You can't do that stuff if those people still have their lifetime positions. So the first step was stripping security clearances. Next step is to grab hardware and go investigate it at their house, their home offices, anywhere else they may do business. So this isn't just John Bolton this is happening to, but he, I think, is the primary name right now, or the biggest head that's going to be trying to be put on the stick.
But do you think it's going to go anywhere? Because they keep doing stuff that eventually never goes anywhere.
Well, how long has he been in office?
More like 200 days?
No, 120, around 120, 125 days. It's not that long. The first thing you have to do is strip security clearances. You have to get informants, whistleblowers, which they have also had. They started digging into these investigations. Now they're actually going into the Home's office. They're not making arrests yet. The next step would to be make arrests. So I would expect it takes 3 or 4 years to do these kinds of things. I mean, maybe you're moving on, what would you say, social media time? This isn't social media time. This is legal time. Legal time takes a lot longer for things to play out.
And also we always keep complaining that they're trying to use this to kind of hide the whole Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell thing. But today also a bunch of stuff came out about that, funnily enough.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they're doing both things kind of at the same time.
Well, it's not funny. I think they have a lot to, one thing has everything to do with the other. So.
Should we see a little bit about that?
Yeah.
See, I didn't edit it, but.
I didn't grab a story about it because I didn't know too much. I did see an X post about it though.
Yeah, we can read quickly about it. So U.S. Justice Department releases transcript of Ghislaine Maxwell interview, and the summary is they released it, the recordings in...
Yeah, and I believe they released recordings. I was looking for them, but I didn't see them. That was the thing.
Transcript and audio recordings of its July interview with Ghislaine Maxwell, serving a 20-prison-year sentence. We know that. Maxwell, whom Donald Trump says he's allowed to pardon, says she has never seen Trump in any inappropriate setting in any way. She also claims allegations about Prince Andrew are not true, and she says that she was not aware of any sort of client list. Maxwell interviews were conducted by Justice Department Todd Blanche, who was previously Trump's personal lawyer.
Yeah, and they're trying to get the most of the evidence they can, but a Democratic judge blocked the original trial that happened with Ghislaine Maxwell. They wanted to release all the documentation for that. A judge blocked that, so they weren't able to do that. You need the testimony of Ghislaine Maxwell. Then you're going to need what happened with the jury. You're going to need to disclose all those documents. Then you're going to need investigations based on her testimony. Then you're going to need hard evidence, videotapes, if there are any hard drives that they were perhaps stashed away as an insurance policy. If she knows where those are, if she turns those over, that would satisfy the general public when it comes to Epstein. Just her testimony is not going to suffice.
And it is, again, I know I've coordinated, but the fact that both the Ghislaine Maxwell thing coming out today, interestingly saying that not even Prince Andrew was involved, even though that seemed to kind of have some sort of ground and traction. The royal family did excommunicated him.
Yeah, you can't really trust what she's saying. There has to be evidence to back this stuff up. So if she can provide any kind of hard drives that maybe the FBI doesn't have, a lot of people suspect a foreign government like Israel actually has the majority of the intelligence, and Trump is using a lot of that intelligence in association with the Israeli government to perhaps get a lot of these tariff deals, especially in the EU. That was a sweetheart of a deal, and nobody can figure out kind of how Trump did it. But if he has the Ring of Sauron, then maybe he will have power over these people, but that also retains power within the hand of the Israelis to kind of lure over Trump if he wants to keep using it, not to release all the files.
And then back to John Bolton. So FBI searches former National Security Advisor John Bolton's home in a probe to find classified records. I just quickly want to see what the official news says. The agency declined to comment further on the search. Bolton, who lives in Bethesda, did not immediately respond. CIA Director John Ratcliffe provided FBI Director Kash Patel the intelligence that was the basis of the search warrant used by federal investigators to raid Bolton's home and office, a source familiar, blah, blah, blah. The intelligence, the source said, involved what was alleged to be a mishandling of classified material by Bolton, who served as Trump's national security advisor during his first term, before a contentious exit strained their relationship.
Yeah, they're looking for stuff right now, not just for what's going on with Epstein, but what happened with Russiagate, what happened with a lot of these investigations that have been popping up in the headlines over these first 100 days of the Trump administration. They now have to try to gather the evidence. Once the evidence is gathered, then they can give it to the prosecutor and charges can be laid. Arrest can also be made. Then these people can potentially post bond. But this is going to be a couple of years. This is going to be a couple of year process. A lot of the stuff, they do need to act in very quick fashion to settle this before the midterms. They don't want any blowback, especially from this Epstein thing when the midterms come up. Trump needs to win those midterms to keep a majority in the House and Senate so he can kind of push through his agenda and what he wants to do. He's doing a good job the first 100 days, but that's only because he has power control in the House and Senate. Okay.
And you had something about Bannon,
Oh, I did?
who we've been talking about a lot about lately, apparently. He's talking about Germany having no manpower.
Yeah, why don't we just play it?
Okay.
And Steve Bannon was the brains behind Donald Trump. He's the one that kind of gave him his populist views. They did align with China and a couple other things. All the other populist views Bannon kind of installed into Trump in the first place. He's the one that recruited Trump. He initially tried to recruit a couple other people to be president before Trump. He thought Trump would say no, but they came to an agreement, and that's how Trump got his political start.
And this is from his War Room show.
Immediately upon their return to Europe, the Germans said, we don't have the resources to put anybody on the line of contact, to really have anything to do with security guarantees. Maybe we can put up some money, or maybe.
Did it stop for you?
Yeah. Fast forward a bit. Fast forward all the way. Okay. Well, we can just stop it there, I guess. Why don't you read the headline there, though?
Yeah, so Bannon says Germany has no manpower. The UK admits it can't fight. France talks big, but it's broke. Poland stayed home, and now Russian hackers have leaked that Ukraine has 1.7 million casualties, 625,000 this year alone. More U.S. money won't bring peace. It just means more ended Ukrainians.
Yeah, the Ukrainians are running out of troops. They're using forced conscription methods at this point. The number of Ukrainian casualties is speeding up in an exponential manner right now. These documents were released, and it was expected between 1.5 and 2 million casualties on the Ukrainian side by independent sources before this. Now there's a confirmation of 1.7, so that sit right in that range. The Ukrainians themselves were saying they had 125,000 casualties. Those numbers just didn't make sense.
And for the longest time, I did hear you, because once again, you're the one that has been following this whole war since it started, basically. But I have kept hearing you say that the Ukrainians are not being straightforward with how many casualties they have and how badly they're actually doing, and putting up this front, which they were supported in doing by the European Union, but now the European Union is also kind of figuring out what to do.
Well, the European Union's going to have to send troops because Ukraine just doesn't have any more troops, and they're quickly running out. This is a problem, mainly because in the beginning of the war, it was about 4-to-1 casualty rate, Ukrainians to Russians, and it's expected that those numbers should have been the opposite way around, because Russia was the attackers, Ukrainian was the defenders. In a typical combat situation, the defenders, it's a 3-to-1 casualty rate. It was actually flipped because of the technological advance and the mass bombing campaign Russia was able to do. Russia did suffer severe casualties in the very beginning of their war with their prison units. They had units of people from prison commanded by somebody that really didn't know how to command a military properly. It was kind of a straightforward attack rather than traditional Russian military tactics. But it went from 4-to-1 to 8-to-1 really quickly, and now it's sitting at between 14 and 18-to-1, the casualty rate between the Russians and the Ukrainians, mainly because the Russians just have such a technological advantage with blanket bombing followed by drones, followed controlled by tanks. And then finally, the manpower comes in at the end to sweep everything up and clean it up. So their soldiers don't get in nearly as much danger as the Ukrainians do.
So this, could it mean some sort of fast tracking of those peace talks they keep trying to do? Because they said 2 weeks, but now with this
Well, Trump
new information, I'll say.
Well, no, I think exactly the opposite. Trump released a statement today talking about he was quite angry at Russia and the advances they're making on the battlefield right now. Trump's expecting them to kind of slow down, I think, in order to kind of get this peace negotiation going. The Russians are doing exactly the opposite.
So maybe that's off the table now, because wasn't he going to fly to Russia soon?
Well, Trump was kind of hinting today at Biden didn't allow the Ukrainians to strike into Russia. How are they supposed to win the war if they're only defending? Kind of implying there might be deep strikes into Russia over the next few weeks. Most likely, it's suspected that the Ukrainians, if they were allowed to do deep strikes into Russia with American artillery, that it would be after oil refineries and really put a hurt on Russia's bottom line, kind of giving Ukraine a little bit more negotiation power at the negotiation table.
But maybe could that be sort of like with Iran, where they like allow like a massive show of force and then they just end it? To be like, okay, go do this, and now it's over.
Yeah,
Because he seems to be doing that all over the place.
What I'm speculating right now is they're putting it in the European Union's hands. So I've kind of put out this theory, and I know it's an alternative theory. I think Trump and Putin are working together. I like that alliance, and I like that relationship. In a time of war, even though they look like they're on opposite sides, this is a good time to build trust. Putin would do something, Trump would do something. Putin would do something, Trump would do something. I think they've come to an agreement that the globalists in Europe are the biggest threat to a global war, and they need to get them under the Americans' thumb, most likely. So either they're going to buy weapons from the Americans and continue the war. The U.S. is saying you can do strikes into Russia, kind of pressuring pressuring the European Union to buy American weapons, which would undoubtedly bankrupt them and make them subservient financially to the Americans and would take them out of a long-term war. The other option is a peace negotiation. If that peace negotiation goes through, then you're going to see a lot of business dealings in the private sector between America and Russia. So either which way,
Because right now it seems, and from what Bannon, well, didn't say, but from what I read that Bannon said, it does seem, and just in general, that that the European Union and the UK are not doing as well to actually try to even do that right now.
They're in a lose-lose position. The European Union is, America and the Russians are kind of in a win-win situation right now. So either way it goes, I think they want the European Union to make the final decision. That way they're digging their own grave no matter which path they kind of go down.
And speaking of the UK not doing so well, and our cover story, well,
And I will say one more thing. If you don't watch Guns, Goats, and Gold by Tom Luongo, it's a absolutely fantastic geopolitical channel that goes a lot into Russia, Ukraine, and the geopolitics of the world. I highly recommend it. Okay.
so we do have a bunch of videos of a lot of these raising the flags in the UK, especially now with their censorship. I don't know why we don't have sound, but
one moment.
I tried to fix it already. So we do see.
I turned it off.
No, you turned all the sound off?
Yes. I had no audio for just a moment. We're just trying to fix the sound for the videos going forward.
Let me just double check that. Yeah, so we are connected on the streaming side. Now I have to check if we're connected on the. Yeah, so we're connected on the road on the other one.
Okay, so just play it.
I'm going to show you some more now. Oh my God, all I
Okay,
can
let's
see
play it from the
is
beginning.
flags everywhere. Hold on. Oh my God, look at this, guys.
Pause it.
Look, this is where...
Rewind it. Right there. No, play it. Yep,
There.
right there. So if you see these crosswalks, it's a normal crosswalk, and they don't paint the whole white part. They just put the red stripes in there, which makes it really easy to do this on almost every crosswalk in England right now. I originally thought it was completely painted, and then I watched him actually do it. Okay.
God, look at this, guys. Look, this is where I live at Canary Wharf on the Isle of Dogs. It's called Raising the Colours. So every lamppost, look, hold on, let's zoom in. Can you see it? Every single lamppost has got a St George's Cross or a Union Jack. So this is to defy our government to say, no, we have all had enough. So congratulations to the boys that put it up.
And this is getting a little bit crazy. Keir Starmer, there is rumors of a potential new election, and he'll lose his prime minister's seat. So he's not willing to say that he's against this, but every other politician in England is kind of saying they're against it. The Reform UK, which was supposed to be the populist right-wing party that was coming up, is now trying to arrest people that are being caught for this. They want prosecutions on anybody that's caught raising the flags or doing graffiti in the streets to the crosswalks, which is a complete disappointment. What's happening to Reform UK right now is people are starting to see through them, and they're just starting to become part of the Uniparty again.
And just quickly, because there's always a lot of confusion about British flags and why they have like 3 different ones or 4 different ones, what it means. So the Union Jack is all the flags together, so Scotland, England, and the other one. But I wanted to show what I'm just getting this from the Google AI review, just to be quick. But the St. George's Cross is a historical symbol featuring a red cross and a white background. It is a national flag of England, named after St. George, the patron saint of England. The symbol's use in England dates back to the Middle Ages, particularly associated with Richard the Lionheart and the Crusades, and was later incorporated into the Union Jack. So that's what we usually think of as the British flag, and that's the red part.
Yeah, and this has a lot of relevance when it comes to Christianity, and Christian nationalists in the UK are using this a lot. So the fact that they're trying to get illegal migrants out of their country, they're really trying to restore a Christian moral foundation, which the country seems to have lost over time.
And we do have a few more, I guess, videos and photos of this same stuff that's happening. So from Bassett the Great, major incident in New York last night. Muslim gang viciously attacked locals over raising flags. Police swarmed area. Off-comers censoring posts about the incident. Country's about to explode. And again, it's X. Take it with a grain of salt. But
you have to remember the Palestinian flags as well as Indian flags from India were being raised all over the city over the last few years, and nobody was taking those down. As soon as they're actually raising the country's flags, those are being made illegal. They're taking them down, and now there's violence in the streets from gangs of immigrants that don't want the flag of the nation being raised, which seems kind of like a terrorist act.
And there are, under this post, there are like the actual videos of it. There's a lot of them, so maybe we don't have that much time to see it. Ofcom is the British communications office, essentially, and they apparently are censoring the posts, at least in England. And there's also apparently CCTV footage of the incident and the altercation that happened between, I believe it was a delivery driver and the locals that were there having raised the flags.
Yeah.
So that is one of the other things that's happening. And then this one, more people doing the raising of the flags. So raising hundreds of British and St. George's flags all across the area.
And this is not just happening in England. This is actually happening in Ireland as well. This is a huge viral movement that really just started with a few people, but social media blew it up to such an extent. This is really the way you want to protest. This is a peaceful way to protest, much like the truckers protested in Canada. So common people can get behind this without threat of retaliation from the government or strong retaliation from the government. government, because the government looks ridiculous when they're telling their own citizens not to have national pride and not to raise their national flag.
And Keir Starmer has tried to come out to say that he's all for it, that he supports them, but then the councils of these individual towns and parts of England are taking them down and are taking action. And there's also a lot of discourse on the mainstream media of how racist this is and how against migrants it is. In Canary Wharf is where we also saw those protests not that long ago with the Migrant Hotel and the people, especially the older ladies all dressed in pink, that were protesting against that as well. So it's interesting to see that now apparently more and more people are peacefully protesting, not even in front of the hotel, but by just raising the flags.
Yeah, and let's kind of talk about what's going on. You just brought up Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer is saying, oh, it's okay to raise the flags, but behind the scenes, other politicians are saying no. He is in an impossible situation because they want to have a recall election right now, so he can't really tell people not to raise the flags. So he's telling them to do so, but the local politicians are in a catch-22 as well, where they're contradicting themselves. They're saying these flags are illegal, you got to take them down. They're ordering city workers to go take them down. They're saying this is an illegal act, but at the same time, their citizens are protesting in the street and they're forcing their councils to recall all the migrants out of the hotels. So there's expected to be over 100 districts soon that are going to recall the migrants out of the hotels, and they don't know what they're going to do with these migrants. But the federal government can't go against the local councils if the local councils rescind the order for these migrant hotels. Mm-hmm. So every politician at every level in the UK is talking out both sides of their mouth. With one policy, they're trying to support the immigrants. With another policy, they're trying to support the locals. But you can't support both because it's in contradiction right now.
And I mean, funnily enough, we see a lot of bunting during for example, Queen's several jubilees that she had in the past. And also here's the picture of Ireland also joining in the Raise the Colours campaign with flags raised in Dublin as well. But it is interesting that for the longest time we did see, and we were used to seeing a lot of these British flags, especially during celebrations and whenever each country celebration as well, but now it's being called terrible, and people are wondering why this is happening, and oh, it's so horrible. There's something behind it. They don't want to say what it is, but they're essentially pointing towards white space.
They don't know what to do because in the first few days of this protest, there was all kinds of Palestinian flags all around the city, and the people that were raising the English flag were specifically targeting those flags, taking them down and raising the English flag in their place. So politicians couldn't really say, don't take them down the Palestinian flag and don't raise they don't know what to do. So let's go into the next story though, if we can.
Oh, next story? Okay. Also British, or also about the UK.
Oh, what's the story?
So is it British or is it Australia?
No, this is British as well,
okay.
Britain.
So it's this guy saying that, or suggesting hiking the inheritance tax to 100% to reduce income tax and incentivize work.
Yeah, and the LBC typically has a ton of British government propaganda on it, and this is often where they start their talking points, and they really want to make it so you own nothing and you are happy, like the World Economic Forum said. This is one way that they'll do it.
What we've got at the moment is an aristocracy of wealth in this country. It's also true of the United States as well. So what I would do, and I wouldn't be opposed to, by the way, I wouldn't be opposed to 100% inheritance tax. Or maybe let's say 99%. You know, my rule might be that if you could.
And this is absolutely insane. People work hard even after they have a house and have a business because they want to leave everything they have to their children. People aren't going to be able to take their money with them. So if you put an inheritance tax that says you can't give it to your children, then why are you going to continue to work? You're going to have a completely unproductive society at that point.
Mm-hmm. And where's the incentive to work? And Canada has also suggested things like this, and also suggested, and kind of already does, tax people when they leave Canada to go live somewhere else. They still want the people to keep either paying taxes or pay them all up front before they go.
Yeah, California and Canada want to bring in legislation where even if you move out of Canada or move out of California, that you still have to pay tax to Canada or California. It hasn't been passed yet, but they've tried multiple times, at least in California. Canada is constantly putting this idea out there as well.
Can put it in 2p bags then you can hand it over. That's fine. 99, 95%. I'm being provocative, but you see what I mean. I would not be against a far higher rate of inheritance tax than we have at the moment, which is 40% above a certain threshold. I wouldn't be opposed to putting that to 50%, 60%, 70%. Why? Because I think the quid pro quo should be twofold. One, that helps fund public services, which actually helps level the playing field in achieving a true meritocracy. Two, it will help us reduce taxes on income. Because at the end of the day, I want to incentivize work. I want to incentivize productivity. I want to incentivize people to get up off their backsides and do more. You don't have a right to inherit.
Okay, pause it. Okay, there's another problem with this. Nobody's going to keep their money within that country if they can't pass the money on to their children. So you're going to see a mass exodus of even the middle class moving their money to foreign bank accounts so their children can't inherit it. You're going to do nothing good if you get rid of an inheritance tax. And there was one more thing I wanted to say on top of that, but why don't you go for a moment?
And even though, and I'll show the article in a minute, but this guy says, oh, it's one of my most left-wing political views, it clearly stems from this hating the rich. Still hating the rich, even within conservative circles, that starts popping up more and more, and the murky lines between more populist, for the people, liberty, rights, etc., and going back towards the whole oppressor, bourgeoisie class, we have to rally against the elites. So, like, there's a very fine line there where people get confused.
There's a ton of poor people that work their entire lives to send their children to college, and then those kids are able to make more money in the next generation to pass that wealth on intergenerationally. This is why families work hard. But on top of that, I'm against digital ID and I'm against digital currency, and I talk about this a lot. This idea is impossible to implement until they have a digital currency. Once they have a programmable digital currency where you can't get your wealth out of the country, now they can implement an inheritance tax. That's why it's so important not to have a digital currency, so you can have true financial freedom, not only for yourself, but intergenerationally for your children. Even if you don't make a lot, you want to pass something on.
And also this whole idea that, oh, let's just give it to the people for services, give it to the government for services. Well, if you call yourself a conservative, that just creates more dependency upon the government of the people, instead of letting people raise up their own capital and then keep it and then give it to their children, who will hopefully produce more and more capital as well.
And let's talk about the number one way people pass on wealth to their children or to the next generation, and that is through their home. So a lot of middle class people will work for their whole life, make house payments to eventually pay off their house right around the time they're ready to leave. But they can leave that to their children. Many of these countries already have inheritance tax on housing, meaning, yes, the child can inherit it, but they're going to have to pay taxes on that house of what the modern value of it is, meaning that parents may have bought the house for $100,000, but it may be worth $2 million now. The child's going to have to pay a tax on that. Often they don't have that, so they're going to have to sell the house in order to pay the tax.
And there's a brilliant man I always listen to, and I always jokingly say, oh, I want to be like him when I grow up. When you see him and Google him, you'll laugh probably. His name is Rory Sutherland, if you don't know who he is. He's been interviewed a bunch of times by Chris, what's his name? Williamson. By Chris Williamson and a bunch of other people. He mostly talks about marketing and how to change the way you see marketing, but he also has very Georgist views. This means that he wants to tax the land instead of the property on top of the land. Not that I agree with this, but this reminds me of the conversation, because he says that especially, he's from England, especially in the UK, with all the taxes that are already also within houses, there's, for example, people like older people whose children have already left, who are still living in these 4 or 5 person houses all by themselves, and yet they're sitting on top of this 2 million or more property, but when they go to the grocery store, they have to look at the price of lemons. So all their wealth is being concentrated on this one property, but they can't give it off or give it off to their children, because doing so would put a burden even more so on the people receiving the property.
Yeah, and when the United States was founded, there was no tax. The tax didn't come until the World War, and it was a very small tax just on the most wealthy, and they expanded that over time, even though that was never supposed to happen. The war and the separation of people going to the United States was all about taxes. I don't believe especially land, food, clothing, land, food, clothing, and housing should not be taxed in any way, shape, or form. These are the basic needs that people need to survive. I don't think those things should be taxed ever.
Not even like sodas?
Not
like RFK style?
Not any kind of food. Now, I could understand if you say, well, we need to be the resources for the people, this and that. I would make a concession that businesses could be taxed within the country. So if Coca-Cola is making Coca-Cola within the country, they can be taxed.
But then they just go do it somewhere else.
Then they can go do it somewhere else.
But then that other country gets all the benefit of the manufacturing.
If they're taxing, then there'll be other people that come up within within Mexico. Businesses are already taxed. So me saying that taxing business and you saying they're going to go away seems to not make sense because they're already getting taxed and they're still staying within the country.
Well, but a lot of car manufacturers, for example, went off to India to avoid taxes from both the European Union and from the States.
And that's why you need tariffs.
But that's all okay.
So you create tariffs for your country. So you might not have a global industry, but you can sell to your own people and those companies can make profits. Period. So you protect small and local businesses and nationalized businesses within the country so the country becomes self-sufficient.
But again, this is the stupidest idea I've ever heard.
Yeah, this is crazy.
And he says tax inheritance at 100%. It's the only fair choice, Louis.
But
Goodall. I'd never heard about this guy. You got this article. But
the LBC is constantly putting out government opinions, which they want to kind of send out to the general public. So it's in the zeitgeist before they implement the policies. Digital currency is coming in, I believe it's December within the UK. It's going to roll out slowly over time. Once it's fully implemented and it is programmable at its base, they can then bring in an inheritance tax. But they need to bring this conversation up first. And there's a lot of jealousy amongst poor people, middle class to rich people
and also young versus old.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the biggest conversations right now.
So this is a conversation that if you think about it, you probably won't agree with. But if you have nothing and somebody else has a lot, it's easy to make that division.
And that's also why left-wing ideology is seeping through and has seeped through for the longest time. But in the UK, especially with the young people who are having a really hard time trying to find a house or somewhere to live, and let alone start a family, and they have to work 2, 3, 4 jobs, etc. And then again, we have these old people sitting in these $1 million houses, but they can't sell them. So the issue is that things are taxed already too much. Property is taxed already too much. And it's stopping progress and people from actually living lives and actually becoming productive members of society even.
Yeah. Okay, let's go into the article a little bit.
Well, you moved me away from it. He says it might be one of my most left-wing political views, but the time has come to have a serious conversation about inheritance tax, specifically a conversation about a truly radical inheritance tax, one that doesn't just nibble around the edges of wealth, but fundamentally rethinks our society's relationship with it. We should be considering 100% inheritance tax. The current debate sparked by suggestions that the Chancellor...
1 second, and... Well, many people don't have children, so they have nobody to give it to. So they typically give it to NGOs and the government. Mm-hmm. So the government naturally gets a lot of that money. That thing is not being taxed and distributed evenly between the people.
That too.
So,
but also this whole hatred of people that are wealthy or people that are rich. Like, I get it. I understand. A lot of them are the elites that are trying to control the world and the Bill Gates and the World Economic Forums. But at the same time, if there is no incentive to move forward in your life and there's no goal to reach because, as soon as you do, you become this rich elite that now has to pay more than half of what you actually earn, well, where's the incentive to work? He was asking where the incentive to work is. I'm asking him, where would the incentive be? Like, it's removed even more at that point.
Yeah.
But the current debate sparked by suggestions that the Chancellor might close a loophole on gifts is a distraction from the real issue. It's a debate framed by wealth managers and consultancies who, perhaps unsurprisingly, warn that the tightening up of the rules would harm young families.
And there are already ways around inheritance tax, but once programmable digital currency comes into effect, those loopholes are going to be closed. So they're really setting this up for when programmable digital currency comes into effect. Because right now, what a lot of people do is they actually transfer their wealth to their children before they die to avoid any inheritance taxes where inheritance tax is high. Mm-hmm. So that's typically what people do. But once a programmable digital currency sovereignty comes into effect, they're going to digitize everything that is owned from a car to a house to anything else. And once that's transferred over, that tax will have to be paid at that time. Okay, let's go into what do you got next for me?
Well, depends because we're running out of time. So you pick whatever story you think is the most important one.
Well, just go ahead. What's the next one?
Let's
go into PM Carney.
Yeah. It's the most ridiculous one we have. Hold on.
And Prime Minister Mark Carney, he's kind of like the president of Canada. They call it a prime minister there. Had a call to Donald Trump. He didn't talk about what was made on the call to Donald Trump. He did say all retaliatory tariffs towards the United States would now be taken off because his original plan was to tariff the United States to hurt them, forcing them to capitulate and make a deal with Canada. The absolute opposite has happened here. And now he's taking off the retaliatory tariffs, saying he just needs to get in the game, basically bringing his elbows down.
His whole thing was, elbows up as you do in hockey. And that was his whole campaign slogan that he was doing, going elbows up against the U.S. And more we see him like a little baby chicken, just elbows down.
Also, a few days ago, one of his ministers went down to talk to Marco Rubio. They were supposed to have a joint press conference after their meeting. She canceled that and flew back to Canada, and nothing was ever said about that again. So it looks like these tariff deals are going horribly wrong. Again, it's going to be interesting what happens here because Mexico is taking the absolute opposite strategy. So one country is absolutely capitulating to the United States, while Canada really isn't. Right now, it seems to be hurting Canada because the United States has not given them any reprieve and is actually tariffing extra things on top of the North American Free Trade Agreement. So it's going to be interesting in the actual final deal. Is there any difference between Mexico and Canada there? Okay.
Do you want to see him talk?
Yeah. I'm sure, even if I don't, I'm sure the people do. And he has currently the highest approval rating of any prime minister in Canada, which is absolutely insane.
Because we should take that with a grain of salt as well. And this is from Rebel News Online. If you don't follow them, please do so. Independent media from Canada.
So let's be absolutely clear. Canada currently has the best trade deal with the United States. And while it's different
Did you slow it down?
from what we
That's how
had
he talks.
before, it
Go
is
to the-
still better.
Go to the little thing.
It's normal. It's at 1.
Okay.
He
Just
just-
fast forward it.
Talks very
No,
slow.
no. Fast forward how fast he's talking.
Huh.
1.5.
This is taking me longer than if we just watched it.
Well, we don't need to fight on the stream, but if you want to, we can.
than that of any other country. So as we work to address outstanding trade issues with the United States, it's important, it's vital. We do everything we can to preserve this unique advantage for Canadian workers, Canadian businesses. And doing so will require both building on a soon-to-be revised CUSMA, our free trade agreement with the U.S. and Mexico, as well as developing a new form of trade and security partnership with the United States. In this context, and consistent with Canada's commitment to CUSMA, I'm announcing today that the Canadian government will now match the United States by removing all of Canada's tariffs on U.S. goods specifically covered under CUSMA.
Pause it. And a lot of liberals were saying there was no extra tariffs on American goods and it was all completely unjustified what America was doing. He just said from his own mouth, and that's the Prime Minister of Canada, that he's taking off those extra tariffs that they put on the United States. So this was a thing. This is a thing that happened. He's claiming to have the lowest tariff deal of any other country. But that's because of the North American Free Trade Agreement. And that thing's coming into renegotiation. Canada, other than China, has done the worst of any country here. So
yeah, the USMCA. But one thing, I don't understand people who listen to things at like 2 times speed. I don't understand it. I know
do it all the
he
time.
watches everything at 2 times speed, and for me it just drives me insane. But I will say he was speaking very slowly, and it reminded me a lot, if there are any Mexicans out there watching this, of AMLO and how Claudia Sheinbaum, the current president, now speaks. And they speak very slowly because they're trying not to trip up on their lies and on their words.
Well, they also don't want to trip up, but they don't want to be clipped. So if you watch that clip, it's a much longer clip. It's not as easily palatable for social media and stuff like that. And they know It's devastating when a lot of their previous statements have been clipped. Pierre Poilievre, I'd say the counterparts to Mark Carney that's going to now be competing with him in the House of Parliament is back.
Leader of the opposition.
I would expect Mark Carney's approval ratings to go down. The Conservatives' ratings are currently going up. That poll is going to be released on Monday. So Mark Carney has been riding high because there has been no alternative choice. That alternative choice in Canada is now coming back. Donald Trump is absolutely loving Mark Carney because he's just picking apart the Canadians and possibly making Canada the 51st state.
And at the same time, a lot of people voted for Carney because of this irrational, in my opinion, hatred of Trump that a lot of Canadians have, especially the Liberals. But now, today, Trump himself says he likes Mark Carney and has said it twice. He's also before said he's no friend of Poilievre, and they have had not the best relationship ever. So as Mark Nixon says, congrats, Liberals, you got played like fools.
A very good call with Prime Minister Carney of Canada yesterday morning.
Yes.
Actually, Canada is taking away some retaliatory tariffs.
He's removing his tariffs, yeah.
Exactly.
He's removing his retaliatory tariffs, which I thought was nice. And we're going to have another call soon. Yeah, we had a very good call.
We're getting closer towards an agreement on trade.
I like them. You know, look, I'm fighting for the United States. Canada and Mexico have taken a lot of our business over the years, over 25, 30 years. Especially during the Biden years. They took a lot of our business, and it's basically all coming back into the United States now. Well, how does it piss?
So he says he likes Mark Carney, and Canada has stole a lot of their business over the years. Why does he like him? Because that business is now leaving Canada because Mark Carney is destroying the Canadian economy. He is putting carbon taxes on big business, which is making it unattractable to do business and not financially viable to do business in Canada. So a lot of these investments in manufacturing plants are now moving to the United States. If a conservative leader gets in there, he's already stated he would take down those taxes, and then the United States would have real competition. So that's why Donald Trump likes Mark Carney, because it makes a good business environment for the United States to steal all the Canadian business. And it also keeps the dollar low in Canada. So America, if they do need metal or lumber or trees, they can come there and buy it for cheap.
And it's coming back in. Because of tariffs and the incentives we give, it's coming back. And it's impossible, I think, for another country to stop it. And we are working on something. We want to be very good to Canada. I like Carney a lot. I think he's a good person. And we had a very good talk yesterday, so I think it'll be good.
Yeah, very good.
He's not a good person, but...
But why does he like him?
Yeah.
He likes him because it's easy pickings. Everything Mark Carney does is weakening the Canadians and strengthening the Americans. If Carney keeps on that path, the Canadian economy is going to absolutely collapse. He's probably going to have to capitulate to a non-favorable tariff deal for Canada. At that point, if that happens, it's only a matter of time before the Canadian economy does collapse and potentially Alberta separates, and then America can swoop up province by province and make him the 51st state.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to end with one last story, or?
Yeah, why don't we go over to RUMBLE for the last story?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, we're black.
What do you mean we're black?
Oh, no, we're not. That sounded bad. Our screen went dark is what I wanted to say. So we're going over to RUMBLE. We have the J.K. Rowling trans story and what she said about that. And
that was a good
Germany's
one.
doing. And maybe one other one. We'll see if we have time, because then I have to go do my Spanish show on our Spanish channel. So.
And if you're not subscribed on
Yes.
this channel, please do so. We're trying to get to 500 subscribers and eventually 1,000. We're going to head over to RUMBLE now. I see we have one more subscriber there.
Oh,
so
good.
we're only 11 away on Rumble from becoming official creators.
Yes, so we'll see you over there.
Yeah. Adios.
You said the word right at the end.
That's fine.
We were like, RUMBLE?